Last week on the podcast, Confessions of a Hustling Mama, Trish Frempong and I chatted about what giving up and checking out look like for Black moms. I talked about Google searches, about homeschooling and Black schools, and Trish talked about packing her bags and finding an island somewhere and moving. Today, we are meeting someone who actually did that. The day after Donald Trump was elected president, Asia Rutledge applied for passports for her and her son. Asia's a former corporate-type working mom who packed up and left it all behind for Mexico. Asia is an advocate for travel as an education, solution, and lifestyle. She documents her journey on her blog, Doing Life Afraid, helps single moms move abroad through her online course, which is called The Single Mom's Path to Freedom, How International Living Can Change the Game, and fulfills the travel dreams of others through her travel agency, Be Tripping. If you've ever toyed with the idea of a fresh start in a new country, this conversation's for you. Asia, thank you so much for joining the Woke Mommy Chatter podcast and agreeing to come on and talk about your story. So I want to, I guess we'll start at the beginning and just tell me about yourself. Where are you from and how did you end up where you are right now?
Oh boy. I guess, at this point, I say I'm from Atlanta. But I originally grew up in New York and then moved to Atlanta in my teens. And I think that's significant because having a big move like that in my teens, I think it really impacted me because I moved as an adult. I then moved all over. So I moved to like Chicago and Houston and LA. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but Atlanta has been home for the past at least 11 years consecutively. Mm-hmm. And I was a corporate worker. I was a business systems analyst, and I had been laid off twice. And the first time I said I wasn't going back because I have always known that corporate America wasn't really my best fit. Mm-hmm. But, life happens and then you get scared and, how am I going to pay the bill? So you do what you got to do.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yep. But so I said I wasn't going to go back after the first time, but, things started getting tight. Fear started kicking in and I went back. And the second one, I had already been working from home. So that job was a complete work from home position. And as a single mom, that was so necessary. And mm-hmm. I told them, because I was hearing rumors, and I told them, if you're going to call me back into the office, then you may as well get me a severance package because I'm not coming back into the office. It just doesn't work for my life. And so eventually that's what they did. So I got a severance package and I said, I'm not going back. And I did not go back. And it required me to make some big changes in my life. So it really made me say, how dedicated am I to not living this life? Because I was so exhausted. I was exhausted. My son was exhausted. I barely saw him. We'd sit at the dinner table and we'd talk about how was your day? Because I was teaching him about like conversations at the dinner table. And so every day he'd say, how was your day? And I'd say, it was all right. And he could see all over my face, and we'd have conversations about, you don't like it. And so I didn't want to show him, I'm telling him you can do anything. But then every night I'm coming home and he knows I hate this job, And so when they said, either you're going to come in or, we have to let you go, I was like, that's fine. Let me go. I already let you know. So I didn't go back. And I made some choices. And one of those choices was selling my house, which wasn't a hard choice because I was sick of suburbia and I wanted to move into the city limits anyway. So it wasn't a hard choice, but it was a choice, right? That's a major change. We had been in the house for 7 years. And so it's like, okay, how committed am I to this thing? So that was the beginning of just everything taking a complete shift for us.
So you're talking and I'm like tearing up Because
Oh
I'm like,
no.
oh my God, like that just sounds like that dinner when you describe the dinner table, sitting at the dinner table and your son knows like you don't like your job just sounds so familiar. And
Yeah.
but so you talk about like you kept saying you're not going back. What were you not going back to?
For me, I was so many things. I'm one of those people who people would say, I don't see it this way, but people would say like a strong personality, right? And a strong personality, a lot of people struggle with that. So I was constantly like, my work would be excellent. My clients would send, emails to my director raving about me, all kind of things. But if I, had an internal conversation and would question some legit questions, I'd get things like, why did you have to ask her that? Or don't you think you could have toned that down some? Or,
Mm.
you know what I mean? And I was so sick of that. Like every year, my review would be excellent, excellent, excellent. But this thing about how could you soften the way you bring things up? And I'm like, no. Like, what is
Because
wrong with talking
somehow
to
when it's coming from you in your body as a Black woman, it's threatening, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I was so sick of it because outside of that, like I was so above everything. Like I was managing clients people weren't asking me to manage. I was learning a new system that nobody trained me on. Like I was going over and above and all you can do is keep looking at this one little thing. So I was sick of that. And then I'm a single mom and I don't know, from day one, well, in my 20s, I had this job where the people just started acting like they owned me, like it was a small business. And so I started getting like texts in the middle of the night and all this kind of stuff. So I learned really early about boundaries with work. And when I had my son, I really enforced those boundaries with work. So I got tired of fighting that because I'd get emails or phone calls like after work and they wouldn't be emergencies. And I'm like, are
Mm.
you seriously? Why are you calling me about this? Or I remember going on vacation one day, fully preparing them, fully letting them know where I'm, not leaving anything off. And if there was one thing left off, telling them exactly where it is and what to do. And I remember like leaving that the evening before my vacation and my boss saying, but if I have a question, I can call you next week, right? And I'm like, no,
No.
so like, what is hard to understand about this? And I'm that person like, no, like the first time my boss called me after work, it was like 5 o'clock. I'm sorry, 7 o'clock, like on a Friday. So I'm totally like so glad to be away from there. And he called me. And the only reason I answered because I didn't know it was him. And he called me and the what he wanted was so minute and like it could have totally waited till Monday, but he thought nothing of interrupting my now weekend to ask me this.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as I hung up the phone, I literally added him as a contact and put his name and put "don't answer" in all capitals with an exclamation mark because I'm not answering your calls. Like I was that person, like I will give you 120% when I'm there between these
Mm-hmm.
hours, but after them, give me my life. And so I got tired of fighting for what I thought was a basic part of life. Like I shouldn't have to fight y'all for me being a mom and having my time and it not belonging to you. I shouldn't have to fight that. So I got tired of fighting that. And then it just got the rat race. It got old, like
Yeah.
we were doing the same thing every day, hardly seeing each other. I hated work. He hated school. Like it was awful, so it's like, I can't keep doing this.
So you okay. So that like I said, it's so familiar for so many moms, right? So many people,
Mm-hmm.
not just moms, but people listening. And then we talk about so with me, I'll get to that point where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like do whatever. I'm gonna quit my job, I'm gonna homeschool. I talk about all that stuff all the time. But you actually did something about it. So tell me what you
Yeah.
did and how you came to that decision. Well, we know how you came to that decision, but tell me what you did.
So ultimately we moved to Mexico. um, but the way I came to the decision, to be honest, was my son. I had my son and he had some special needs. And so I would be at the school like constantly. And the school people knew me. I'd have meetings regularly. And it was like I'm meeting all the time with these people. And they're telling me they're doing all this stuff. But then I'm still getting all these notes home every day. I'm still getting complaints about things when I'm sitting there in their face. They're saying, oh, it's good. He's fine. He's great. He's excellent, you know? Mm-hmm. And it was literally draining the crap out of me. Like I was starting to get PTSD around school. Like if he'd come home and be like, oh, mom, I'd have a note. Like my heart would literally start pumping harder, you know? And I started saying that I couldn't keep him in this school system anymore. And then I would have this dream. I had this epiphany one day. I was working from home. I was walking my dog because I would leave, walk away from the computer, just like you do at an office, walk away and go to the break room. And I was walking my dog around the neighborhood. And I remember I was talking to a friend of mine and I said to her, why do I work from home and I'm sitting here in Duluth, Georgia? Like, why am I not in Hawaii or Denmark or Mexico and I'm working from home? Like, this makes no sense. So I had told myself then that I was trying to get myself location independent and my son location independent, but I didn't like put forth a plan per se. It was just one of those things like, this is what you're going to do. And didn't really think about it again, but clearly it made some kind of difference because every decision I made after that, without really realizing it, was going in that direction. And the final straw was my son with school. I had moved him to a private school and he loved the teacher that he had because he had visited for a day the year prior, at the end of the year, testing it out. And he had a Black young male teacher. And so I was like, yeah, this is like the business. So he went and he was loving the school. And then the teacher quit the first Friday of the school year. And
oh my God.
My son was devastated. The class was devastated. And I stayed around. I told my son, let's wait a month. Let's see who they bring in. Let's see how they handle things. But it was just like every day of that month, things just went down, down, down. And one day we were driving home from school and he goes, we had already talked about homeschooling as a possibility because I had to get him out the public school and a private school he had gone to prior. It was so expensive. So I didn't know if I'd be able to pay for it at that time. And I did manage it for a year. But in that time I was, talking about like, I know you got in, but I'm not sure. Like, we got to be honest here. So he had knew about homeschool. We had been talking about it before. And he goes, I'm so tired of these schools. Like, it never works for me. Can you please just homeschool me? And that's
how old is your son?
He's 11 now. At that time, he was 10. But that tore my heart. Like, why would a kid say, for a kid to say that? And so I homeschooled him. And I was just thinking one night, I was supposed to sign a new lease on an apartment. And I was like, I'm teaching my son about not carrying toy guns running down the street. I'm teaching my son about not carrying toy guns in the car with us. I'm teaching my son about when, somebody says something to you, you better do exactly what they say. He doesn't know why I'm teaching him this, but I'm teaching him this, and I'm like, this is not the way I want to raise my child. And so I had found out about a World Schoolers Conference and I didn't know anything about it, didn't know what the people did or anything like that. But I said, we're going. And whatever happens after that is whatever happens after that, which is not me. I'm very much a planner. But at this point, I was like, we have no ties here at all. And we can always come back. And so that's what we did. And we've been here ever since.
So it's a World Schoolers Conference that you went to?
So World Schoolers, I don't want to give like a specific definition because it's to each his own, right? But generally, world schoolers literally teach their children through traveling the world. So if you talking about you learning about the Egyptian pyramids, yeah, you might still read a book about it. Yeah, you might still watch a video about it, but you also gonna go there. Right? So world schoolers believe, it's not just about reading things in a book or hearing about it through somebody else. We're actually going to go experience it and touch it. And that really struck a chord with me because we had come to Mexico last summer. I just needed a break. I just needed a getaway, and we came just to visit, but I'm not a beach person, so I had planned like an excursion like for every other day, literally. And so we had gone to Chichen Itza, and I was concerned that my son was like bored out of his mind on the tour we were taking. And I turned around at one point in the tour and he goes, "This is the most fascinating thing I've ever done." And I was like, "Are you being sarcastic?" And he's like, "No, I love this." And then we went to another area on the grounds of Chichen Itza and he related, it was like the court for the old kind of, I don't want to say basketball, whatever ball games they used to play. And he was like, "This is from the Emperor's New Groove." Like you could just see the things clicking in his head, And so I was like, okay, the bookwork stuff isn't working for him, but this right here is lighting him up. And so I decided we're going to go try it and we're going to see. And if it doesn't work, we can always come back to this thing that we know we already don't like. But I will always wonder. So you
like packed up and moved to Mexico. So did you keep your job? Like, are you still working, but working from Mexico?
By that time I was laid off. By that time I was laid off. So I didn't have a job and I wasn't going back to a job. I had been laid off in October 16 and I decided I wasn't going back to a job. And so I was trying to come with all these different ideas and all these things to do. And I decided that I love travel. Like I was supposed to be doing, things that you're really supposed to be doing, like budgeting and grocery shopping and all this stuff. And I'd just be stuck like looking at air flights to Italy or vacations here or things like that. And so finally I was like, I want to become a travel agent. So I actually started that process to become a travel agent. So now I'm a travel agent. And then I was just trying to get different streams of income going. So no, I was determined not to go back to a job. I had actually been offered a job in December after being laid off in October. And it was the highest paying job, the most, most executive job I had ever been offered. And that was like my do or die moment. Like, are you really going to go back or are you really not? And I actually did take the job. And about a week after that, I was trying to figure out, how's my son going to get home from school? How am I going to manage my hours? How am I going to do? And I realized I don't want this job. I do not want this job. And I called them back and rescinded the offer. And I said, no, we're going to do it different. And if I have to make some sacrifices, I've got to make some sacrifices. So I didn't have a job at that time. I had my business that I had started and I was looking at other avenues, but I didn't have a job. My son was now officially a homeschooler. I had already sold my house. And so we packed up a book bag and a carry-on, one of each, and we left.
Oh my God, I love it. I'm loving this. So I'm sorry, I'm trying to just just get my mind around it because it's just so amazing. So you packed up a book bag and a carry-on and you just left and you went to Mexico. So you homeschool him in Mexico.
Yep.
And then, okay. And then, so what do you spend your day, what are your days like?
Our days, they literally change every day. But, so some generally, I'll give you a general idea. We'll wake up, and my son is very much into his schoolwork. So we'll usually wake up, we greet each other, we get water, all that, and then we go through like a gratitude. What are we grateful for? And then literally my son literally gets his laptop and walks off and leaves me. And because by this point it's a routine, so he knows what he's doing. I don't have to sit there with him and go through each point. And I'll check in with him hourly. And then usually with math and writing, we get back together. He comes back where I am and we work through it together, because usually I have to explain some things and help him understand what's meant. And then while he's doing that, I'm working. So I will be working on travel deals or packages for people. I'll be working on promotions. I'm promoting a course right now for single moms moving abroad. So I'll be working on promotions for that, or setting up guest people, for the course to come in and teach in the course. So I will spend the morning just really diving in and getting work done. And there's some other single moms that live in this same town. So usually by mid-afternoon, we have a group chat. Somebody's like, what are y'all doing today? What do you want to do today? And so we'll end up.
Are they American as well?
They are. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. That was a coincidence. That wasn't on purpose. So,
but you found a village.
Yeah, I found a village, and it's been amazing. So they, by that time it's like, I don't know, but let's meet up on the theater steps. Like we won't have concrete plans, but we'll just go wherever. And that just kind of leads. We just end up doing whatever we feel like it. We want to go to the park. You want to go, let's go to this museum. Let's go here. And so we just do different things like that. And we'll usually go get dinner, because food here is so differently priced than in the States. So we might go get dinner. It's cheap. It's very cheap. I can feed my son and I on like $5 eating out at certain places. So, and we just kind of hang out. Other times we stay home most of the day and do a lot of learning. But, a lot of I try to get out a lot, because that's what teaches him, right? Yeah, so getting out in the town, exactly, talking to the local people, learning Spanish, learning directionally, like where should we go? Are we going north, west? Everything could become a teaching moment. So when we're out in the town, that's really, he's doing the math, the writing, the science, he's doing all that. But I feel like his true learning, the things that are clicking, the things that are like wondrous for him, is when we're out in the town. Like there was this festival just this last weekend that it's called the El Dia de las Flores. And like we had never seen anything like it. It was the best thing in the world. But if we stayed in the house, we would have totally missed it,
Yeah. How did you find your house? Like, did you go on Airbnb? Like, what were the logistics like?
So the logistics, I feel like I had like a guardian angel, because when I started really saying we're leaving, like a lot of people could say we're leaving, and I did it too. It's like, oh, I'm leaving, but it would waver. But the minute I said I'm leaving and I set a date for myself, everything changed. So there's actually a Facebook group called the World Schoolers Group. And I would go in there and just post different questions like, what do you guys use for Wi-Fi when you don't know where you're going to stay? Or what do you guys do for, things like that? And people would comment. And off of those comments, some conversations with certain people might go longer than others. And there was a woman I met like that. And so we ended up having like private conversations, and she was just so helpful. And she was going to the conference and actually lived in the city where the conference was, which is here, Guanajuato. And so she would help me. And so I'd say, I don't know how to find a place. What do I do? And she'd say, you need to get an Airbnb for like 2 weeks, right? But the best way to find a place is to hit the streets when you get here, if you don't want to pay American prices. So she kind of guided me. And so when we got here, that's exactly what I did. I got an Airbnb for 2 weeks, which is that was the most nervous part for me, because I have no long-term accommodations and I have a kid with me, you know? And so for me, that was like, is this really going to work? And, but everybody said it. Like, she wasn't the only one who said, this is how you do it. And so we did. We got the accommodations, and she's like, I'll help you. So she showed me where in the town to get the little local paper. And she's actually been a godsend. She asked her landlords to call the places I found so that they wouldn't hear an American accent and automatically junk up the prices. Exactly. But it turns out that her landlord's brother had just finished an apartment and was looking for a renter. And so she was like, why don't you just come see it? You know, do you think? And she's like, come see it. So like, okay, we'll go see it. Little did I know it was like 4 houses down from her house.
Oh my goodness. This just sounds like a movie. You need to like write a book about this.
I know, it's crazy.
Oh, wow.
It was literally 4 houses down. So we walk 4 houses down and we come in and like, I love this. And, so I said, we're going to take it, because with my child being an only child, her child was an only child, 4 houses apart. Like, it couldn't get better than that. So that's how we got it. But generally, you get an Airbnb for a week or 2, and then you come and hit the streets. Because in many of these countries, especially in like South America, Mexico, they're not on the internet like we are in the States. So a lot of it is still like for rent in the windows, on the little local paper, stuff like that. So that's the best way.
Oh my goodness. I'm just in complete and utter awe of you. and how long do you plan on staying there? Like, how long are you going to go other places? Like, what's your plan?
We are going to stay here because before I left, even, this was a whole thing. Like, am I going to stay somewhere for like a month and then go somewhere else for a month? Or am I going to get a home base somewhere? And just economically, it makes more sense to have a home base somewhere and then take trips elsewhere. So for now, this is our home base, because the rent is insane. It's less than my electric bill was at my house. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so this is our home base. And we just came back from Playa del Carmen about a week ago. There's some other places in Mexico we were going to go. So right now we're just going to base here and then take various trips around. And as far as coming back to the States, like, my son totally doesn't want to come back.
Which I bet, like, do you feel like there's a sense of ease about him, or is there like a bit of,
it is such a bit of ease and relief. And he can't even really describe it, because one day I asked him, like, why don't you want to go back so bad? What is it you love about here? And he was trying, but he what he did say, which I think is really sad for a child. Again, he's like, I just don't feel the stress. And I'm like, wow, like at 10, what stress were you feeling? But I'm not saying he wasn't, but the fact that he said that, and I think he just feels free. He's not seen in a certain way here. He's not already preconceived to be a certain way,
So I was going to ask about that. Like, okay, so, I mean, I haven't been to Mexico. I've traveled in Europe, but in other places, but do you think that, I know as a Black traveler, there are, how do I say that? Like, there's racism everywhere, essentially, right? Like, you come up against kind of barriers that maybe your like white counterparts wouldn't have when they're traveling. So in Mexico, I mean, in a way, you're kind of insulated because you're outside the system. Like, he's not in the school system, you're not in the workforce in Mexico. But have you come up against any of that at all? Or do you feel like there's a certain kind of privilege because you are American, as opposed to like indigenous kind of African Mexican?
I think it's both. I think it's both. We definitely have come up against it, but it's not like in the States, right? So it feels completely different. Now you will feel the tension, but it's not, you don't feel like them forming all these decisions about you. You know what I mean? And so with that, it's just kind of like, okay, you don't want to greet us, you don't want my money, and we'll just walk out the store and keep it going. But and that's it. And that has, I'll say maybe 2 or 3 times. So, really it's not crazy. And then I do think there is
so
privilege.
On a scale where you might get that in the States anyway, it's kind of like, exactly. It's actually lesser where you are now.
Yeah. And I think it's so much so that my son never even notices. It's more me. Right. And then, with the American, yeah, of course that helps, but, at the same time, it might not be as much of a help. I mean, we've seen some stuff in graffiti, around our president around here. So, so, it's kind of hit or miss at this point. We just don't bring it up whatsoever. But, I think that just in day-to-day life, though, my son is a real hoodie kid. He loves hoodies, always has, and he can walk down the street with a hoodie, and I'm not concerned that somebody's going to see this kid with this hoodie and automatically form and take actions because of these things they've formed. We don't feel that here. It's not like that. And really, Mexicans, for me, it was an eye-opener for me because I always had a perception of Mexicans in the state as not being very friendly. They especially in Georgia, they weren't very friendly. They didn't really talk to people outside of who was in their group. And so that was my perception, but they are not like that at all, here. And they might just do that in the States for protection. I can see that. Yeah. But here they're so friendly. They're so helpful. We have a little corner bodega right by our house, and I go in there and the lady's like, I'm your new friend in Guanajuato. If you need anything, you ask me, and literally I needed a taxi at 5:00 in the morning. So I was scared because Mexicans don't run on regular time a lot of the time. And I was like, I need this taxi to come at 5 in the morning. And she helped me call the taxi. So, just very open, very friendly. And so, no, we don't feel like that. It's not, where in the States, it was a day-to-day thing that I'm thinking about constantly. Are there microaggressions with him in school? Are there, you know what I mean? Is that they're saying they're helping him with this IEP, but are they not? Why are they not helping him? Are they really, but they're telling me they are. What is this really about? It's like you always have to figure it out. And here I'm not trying to figure it out. Like, it's real clear. Oh, you're not feeling me. Okay, I'm going to leave. Or it's not, it's fine. And there's no minutia. There's no, I got to figure this thing out. And it's always on my mind. I'm walking through the store and now you following me. Why are you following me? I don't have that here. And that is like one of those things that I didn't know how much it was weighing on me until it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, I'm always struck. My family's from Barbados. And one of the things that always strikes me is whenever we go there, the plane touches down and you get off and it's just like a sea of Black people. And you just feel like, it's like, oh, right? Like you just feel this kind of, like you just blend in and you feel this relief. Yeah, it's just easy, right? And it's funny because my son, it wasn't, we were somewhere in Toronto that was heavily populated with Black people. And he picked up on it. He's like, why is everyone here brown? But it's like this kind of like, you feel like you're part of it, right? So I can totally understand how, it would just be just peaceful.
It is peaceful. I will say in Mexico, there is a difference because in the States, I have always lived in prominent Black areas, and being from Atlanta, like Black people
Yes.
are everywhere. So
Yeah.
for me, I don't think my
That's like the
son
Black
has,
Mecca, right? Isn't that what they call it?
right.
Black Mecca?
Yeah. So I do feel that, like, I'm one of only a few Black people here. Like, that does cross my mind, but I don't feel it in a racist sense. It's just more for me. Like, I kind of
Yeah.
miss having my Black people around all the time, but not in a racial, aggressive type of way. Just a thought that
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah. So, God, like, how long do you think you're gonna be there? Like, is this forever?
No, I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. There's a lot of reasons that I do not want to go back to the States.
Yeah.
Sadly,
Yeah.
and at first I was thinking it wouldn't be really long because my son, he's the kind of kid that he's not feeling anything new, right? So he wasn't even down for this whole thing. It was just kind of like, we're going, and I hope that you like it. Um, so I didn't know he would take to it to the point of him telling me he didn't want to go back, And so the fact that he's like totally on board, I don't know. We have a dog at home. I had agreed with a friend of mine to watch my dog for 6 months. But I really of the mindset of going to get her and bringing her
Yeah.
back, and we just do this thing here for now, because just the stuff I'm seeing going on, and I'm not seeing most of it because I'm in a whole nother country and news is very different when you're outside of it. So I'm not seeing everything, but the stuff that I am seeing is really like, why do I want to go back? Like, I literally had that thought the other day reading an article. Like, what is it that I'm trying to go back to? So for now, we're here, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him having this, life experience, and I hope that it lays some groundwork for how he feels he can live life when he's on his own. Because my biggest thing was that I'm not sure how it is in Canada, but in the US, now that I've left, I can look back and see things, and we are taught, that we're like the greatest country in the world, and we have the best this and the best that, and why would you ever want to go anywhere else? Everybody wants to come here, and so a lot of us don't ever really think like we could leave the States, it never really crosses your mind. And just with everything, just with the police shootings of Black men and all that, I just wanted my son to just have a drop in his mind to think, I can go to other places in the world. Like, that is a
100%.
real option for me. And,
Absolutely.
yeah, I just didn't want him to be stuck in thinking like, this is it. This is all it is for me. Because it's not true. So, however long this plays out is how long it plays out, but I really don't see it ending quickly.
That's amazing. Your story is amazing. You need to write a book.
I have a blog, and I write about all the stuff here in the blog. It's my way of getting stuff out. And
What's your blog called?
it's called Doing Life Afraid. So it's doinglifeafraid.com. And
Okay.
I named it that because people always think I'm so brave and fearless and all this, and I'm really not. I just keep doing it scared. Like
Right.
like
Oh,
one of
that's
the things I always tell
amazing.
my son. Yeah, I'm always telling my son, like, we just because we're scared doesn't mean we're not gonna do it. Like, we're just gonna do it afraid, and then afterwards we see if that fear was justified or not. And sometimes it is, and you say, okay, we're not doing that again. That was crazy, But most of the time, it's not. And so I thought that was appropriate for me, because people are always telling, oh, AJ, you're so brave. You're never scared. Yes, I am. Like, you have no idea. Before we left, I literally couldn't sleep the week before. I kept waking up. My heart was palpitating like I was in cold sweats. I was freaking out. Okay. But I'm like, we're still doing it, because I just don't want to look back and say, I sure wish I had done that. I wonder what it would have been like if I did. I just can't live life like that.
If you enjoy listening to the show, be sure to subscribe so you get automatic updates of new episodes every Tuesday. Don't forget to follow Woke Mommy Chatter on Twitter at @WokeMommy, on Instagram, and follow along on Facebook at Woke Mommy Chatter. If you'd like to get in touch, have feedback, ideas for the show, drop me a line at wokemommychatter@gmail.com.